Cool. All right. We're back. Welcome back to the Daily Traders Podcast. This is episode number 29, our first episode of 2023. That's insane.
Yeah.
2023, we're over 6 months into this whole podcast thing. Podcast has been growing. Our numbers were crazy last month. We took 3 weeks off and we're still growing.
Yeah.
Over each month, we're like doubling our numbers. So it's great to see you guys are enjoying it from what we've seen online. I'm your host, Mark. This is my co-host, Jack.
What's up, guys?
We have a very special guest today. Okay, Jordan, who is a full-time options future trader and entrepreneur, very well known for his Twitter. You have around 70,000 followers, correct me if I'm wrong, on Twitter, which is big for the trading space.
Yeah, totally.
Thanks for having me on, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on. I initially ran into Jordan in the Twitter DMs, kind of going around finding, because there's a lot of noise out there on Twitter, people putting out misinformation, bad information, whatnot. I found Jordan's tweets. I actually have a list of some of my favorite tweets that he's put out, which we're going to go over later in this episode. I'm really excited to kind of dive into some of these. For example, gamma exposure you talked about. But anyways, yeah, super excited to get into this episode.
All right, quick disclaimer. We are not financial advisors. We cannot give any financial advice. Nothing said in this podcast should be taken as financial advice. The full disclaimers is in the description below. This episode is sponsored by the Rumford Group. Now, the Rumford Group is picking up where Wall Street left off, filling the gap in trading education and connecting you with the most experienced traders in the world.
If you click the link below right now and use code podcast, you will receive 10% off.
All right, thank you to the Rumford Group for sponsoring this episode. And with that said, let's get on with it. Nice.
But I think we should first start at, where did you start in your trading journey?
Yeah, good question. So I started trading in high school, actually. So after my first job, which was at Bed Bath & Beyond, funny how that ended up being in stock.
Did you ever trade it?
I did. Yeah, I did. It comes full circle. But yeah, after my first shift at Bed Bath & Beyond, I hated it. And so I went home and I went on my computer. Probably what every high school kid has looked up. I looked up how to make money online fast as a teen, right? I come across a video of someone trading. He makes $2,000 in literally 20 seconds. And I was hooked ever since. So that's how I got started and led me to where I am today.
That's a good story. I mean, we're always, I think it's the common story is you want to make money fast. And then you realize that it's really not like that. It really isn't a get rich quick scheme, which I've seen you talk about in your tweets. Speaking of one of my favorite tweets that you just recently put out is I'm going to quote you right here. It goes, "You really think the funds are putting millions of dollars into the market buying off the 9 EMA, quote unquote." And then you talk about just watching price and volume. But it really is funny because you see all these fancy new indicators and moving averages and stochastics and RSIs, but you really, it seems like a lot of your trading is based around volume and price. Do you want to kind of get into that a little bit?
Yeah, for sure. So when I first started trading the first few years, I was always looking at different indicators, doing that and, everything involved. And eventually I started to realize that indicators don't really help you. And what actually moves the markets are, the big banks and institutions, the guys who are playing with millions of dollars and trading all this money, who are actually moving stocks. And, it's funny in the tweet, they're not looking at a moving average and playing these bounces, which a lot of traders nowadays are doing.
Yeah.
So once I finally realized that, I said, okay, I'm not going to look at any more indicators. I'm just going to focus on price and volume. And that's kind of what led into how I trade today.
Okay. Do you want to talk about a little bit how you trade today?
Yeah. So the main concept that I trade is supply and demand. I'm sure you guys have heard of that. I founded supply and demand a few years ago. I got hooked on it. And what I've done is I've actually combined it with a few other elements. One of them being balance theory, which is kind of an auction market balance, which basically means there's always going to be a price where, it's fair between buyers and sellers. And that's where price is going to be very choppy. And eventually price is going to get to one side of the auction. Sellers are going to get exhausted and then it's going to reverse. And then the other side, and then buyers are going to get exhausted. It's going to reverse. And it's kind of that back and forth, support resistance idea that you have in mind. But it's just traded a little bit differently. So the way that I kind of do my trading now is I combine supply demand with this balance theory. And then I add other like confluences, like I look at volume, I look at trend, things like that to really hone in on my strategy and increase my win rate. And that's basically a general idea of how I do my trading now.
Neat. Okay, so that's great because when I ask you like what is your strategy and how does it work, you gave me a very like clean and concise answer, which I feel like a lot of beginner traders struggle to do. So how long did it take you to get to this point where you had like a very defined strategy that you were confident that this is my strategy and this is how I pull money out of the markets?
Yeah, so it took me around 2.5 years until I really started seeing consistencies from when I started. So
Mm-hmm.
2.5 year mark is kind of when I found supply demand. And then I was in that stage where I was still losing a lot of money. I wasn't really profitable. I found supply demand and started to work for a little bit. And then eventually I started losing money again. And at this point I was fed up. I was like, what is going on? This strategy should work. A lot of people are using it. Why is it not working? And then I kind of realized like I need to have a real strategy behind this. I can't just, buy every demand zone and short every supply zone because eventually it's not going to work.
Yep.
So when I really honed down on figuring out like, okay, I need to be specific with how I enter, how I exit, things like that. That's when I really started to form a real strategy, back test it, optimize it, and eventually found success around the 3 year mark of trading.
So it seems like you're mainly self-taught. Did you have a mentor or just purely from just trying out and figuring out what worked and what didn't on your own?
I did. I learned a lot on my own through YouTube, from guys on Twitter as well.
Of course.
I bought a few courses, so that definitely helped a lot as well. In terms of mentorship, I did have one. He's actually a very like unknown person. He actually found me through Twitter. Huge trader, but he has no like social media. He has no brand or anything, and he took me upon his wing, kind of helped me out a little bit. So I'm very thankful for that.
That's really cool. Okay, so because a lot of people, like I feel like a lot of mentorship groups, they get a bad rap. But the thing is, I've kind of used this metaphor a lot, is trading is like a business. And like, what are your startup costs? Like your startup costs are the money that you lose when you start to learn, right? And maybe investing money in education. So do you believe in buying mentorship groups?
Definitely. I mean, for me, I think you can be a successful trader without mentorship, without buying courses. It's definitely possible. The one thing that helped me is that mentorship and courses, what they do is when you invest in yourself, you're saving yourself time and money, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think if I didn't invest in the things I did, it probably would have taken me another like 2 to 3 years until I eventually make it. So I don't think it's necessary, but I think it's definitely going to save you time and money. And I know for me, it definitely helped me do that as well.
Yeah, neat. So, all right. So going back in your trading journey, you started trading in high school after being fed up with Bed Bath and Beyond. You went to, did you go to college?
I did, yes.
Okay. So, and then I imagine from high school, you continued trading in college.
Yes.
All right. So how did that, because I traded in college for a little bit and I definitely struggled a lot between balancing my educational life, all my classes, my social life, and then actually getting time in front of the screen. The market's only open from 9:30 to 4, right? So how did Eastern time? So how did you balance that?
Yeah, so luckily for me, I was able to kind of schedule and pick where I took all my classes. So I did all afternoon classes so I could spend the mornings looking at the market, studying and things like that. So I did sacrifice a lot of like time with friends, time with going out, partying, like all of that, just to kind of be in this bigger mission of making sure I make it successful as a trader.
Mhm.
Because I never wanted to have a job outside of college. And so that's why I spent a lot of my time studying trading.
Yeah. Do you remember like having one aha moment in college when you're like, because you go to college to get a degree to get a good job, right? Because you need to be educated or whatnot. But trading is kind of this whole different game where you can work for yourself. So was there like a moment in college where you're like, I don't need this. Like I can just trade.
That was kind of the goal actually in high school. Again, like going back of the story of like coming back from that first shift at Bed Bath and Beyond, and it was like, I worked like multiple other jobs after that, so it never kind of came to a point where I knew I wasn't going to work, but I knew that working a 9 to 5, having a regular job, just wasn't going to be for me. I knew like that's something that I would not be happy doing. So ever since that like first shift, I really focused on making this work, and that's kind of where it really took off and gave me the motivation to focus on trading.
Okay, cool. You want to talk about where you're at right now as a trader without, maybe giving us exact money numbers, figures? Like, what are you doing, say, a month right now in, what you're making?
Yeah, so right now, it's been pretty consistent. I'm doing around low 5 figure months. So I'm very happy with what I've been doing. The past 6 months or so, I haven't really grown my trading at all, and I've done that strategically, mainly because I'm focused on other businesses I'm working on right now. However, this year is when I'm really going to look to start compounding and growing my account and really take trading seriously. So that's where, looking into the next year or 2023, I'm hoping to start hitting 6-figure months at the end of the year. And then I'm hoping 2024 will be the first 7-figure year from trading.
All right, that's neat. So I imagine, or I know a lot of our viewers are either completely new to trading, they haven't even clicked the buy button, and then a lot of them have small accounts. Maybe there's a few with like medium, and maybe even some out there with big accounts. Do you want to walk us through the process of growing a small account into a medium account and then later down a big account?
Yeah, for sure. So small accounts are definitely going to be tough to grow. They're not easy at all, especially when you don't know what you're doing. For me, I think the most important part is going to be risk management, right? So if you have like a $500 account or $1,000 account, you need to really focus on risking like maximum $50 a trade, maximum $100 a trade. Like even that is a lot percentage of your account. So I say my, rule of thumb is risk no more than 5% of your account for a small account. Once you get to a medium and large account, it really goes down to like 1 to 2%. You want to be a lot more risk adverse at that point. But for a small account, it is kind of tough to get into options or higher price stocks. So I would focus on starting with smaller price stocks, like maybe BAC or like banks, like things that have like smaller price where you can get options for like $50. And then that way you can have better risk management and eventually grow into higher price stocks as your account grows.
Okay. What are your thoughts on paper trading? Because that's how a lot of people start.
I think paper trading is good to kind of understand how the platform works and how options work if you're learning them. Personally, I'm not really a fan of paper trading, mainly because you don't have the emotions involved. It's not your real money.
Yep.
And there's always going to be that huge difference right when you switch from paper to live trading where you're actually risking like your real money now, and that's when your emotions play a huge role. And like honestly, like 90% of trading nowadays is just managing your emotions, making sure you're mentally ready and being able to stick to your strategy. And so paper trading, you're kind of not really training that mental thought. And so I think it's important that you really don't paper trade that much. But also you shouldn't be risking a lot of money that you can't afford to lose.
Okay. Do you have any recommendations for traders out there who like, because I remember when I first started trading in high school, I would struggle with like, I'd have my small account but I would see all these traders making big money out there, right? Like guys posting $2,000 gains, $10,000 gains, even like on Twitter, like guys posting $100,000 gains. And I just feel like I'm missing out. So I would I would take my $2,000 account and I'd risk like half of it on a zero DTE, 0 days to expire. So options they're just essentially super risky options, and then just make dumb decisions and then blow up the account. So like, do you have any advice for people out there who have a small account, but they're having that FOMO of missing out on these big gains?
Yeah. I mean, what I used to do is I actually deleted my Twitter for a while and I just kind of I couldn't look at any other people's profits because I get so much FOMO.
Yeah.
Eventually I got over that, but the best way is really you just got to understand that trading in itself is not a get rich quick scheme. Like it's going to take time if you really want to make it into a full-time income. And so you need to understand that like, yeah, I might be trading with a $2,000 account, but a $200 gain is going to be the same trade as a $2,000 gain. And that's going to be the same trade as a $20,000 gain. So in terms of sizing up, you don't really need to change your strategy at all. What you should be focusing on is consistency. Because if you can make, $10 a day consistency, you can make $100 a day, then 1,000 and continuously growing that. So for me, if you just focus on being consistent, that's going to help you with long-term success.
Yeah, not making these huge home run hits. So like, for example, you traded today. How much did you make trading today, if you don't mind sharing?
Yeah, so I traded SPX options. So I did a credit spread today on SPX. Trade took about like 2 hours, made $600. It was very simple. I can actually hold up here as well.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
I don't know if you guys can see that.
Nice.
It might be backwards, but yeah. So it's like, for me, it's just one and done, like very simple. Like, I don't like to overcomplicate. I take like 1 to 2 trades a day. So $600 a day can go a long way.
Nice. Okay, so I think we talk about this a lot too on this show, and it's how trading, like, it is a lonely job if you take it too far. Like, if you sitting in front of your computer all day long and then looking over charts and going over your trades, you have to we feel like you have to do something active, like going to the gym. What do you do with the rest of your day once you finish
what's
trading?
your day in the life like?
That's a good question. Definitely going to the gym. I mean, my entire morning typically consists of trading in the morning and then going to the gym. And that basically takes up my entire morning.
Nice.
After that, it usually just depends. I mean, I have a few businesses I'm working on, so I'll do meetings for those or I'll work on those. I'll scroll through Twitter. I have a few hobbies, like I like to golf, work out, meet new people, things like that. So the typical stuff. Also looking to get into traveling soon, so that's going to take up a lot of time. But yeah, right now it's been very focused on trading and working on my businesses.
Sweet. Do you want to walk us through your pre-market routine? How much time you spend? How much time you need?
Yeah. So for me, I only need about 30 minutes. I typically wake up around 9. I go on the screens around 9.
Yeah.
I wake up earlier. And I just do my scan. I'll check in with Twitter, see what's happening. Mainly, I've only been focusing on trading SPX and SPY recently. So that's kind of been my focus. So I'll make my morning game plan. I'll kind of figure out okay, where do I want to be buying? Where do I want to be selling? Which stocks am I looking at? I'll make my game plan, and then from there, market opens and I'm trading.
Sweet, man. All right, well, hey, we're going to cut to a quick break here. We'll be back with you guys in just a second. As mentioned in this episode by Jordan and us, the hosts, trading is a business and you need to invest in yourself in order to make money in the long run and make money quicker. Just as much as losing money, trading education is an expense to get yourself going and becoming a full-time trader. This is why this episode of The Daily Traders is sponsored by the Rumford Group.
The Rumford Group is connecting you with the most experienced traders in the world, filling the gap in trading education. If you guys are interested in learning more about the Rumford Group, go ahead and click the link in the description below. All right, and we're back. Okay, I had low energy the first episode. I'm trying to not drink caffeine. That's one of my 2023 things. Cut down on caffeine. So I haven't had any caffeine today.
Oh, geez.
So anyway, apologies for
don't fall asleep on
the lack. Yeah, I might. Who knows? Anyway, let's get back into it. I had a question. Okay, for Jordan. Jordan, how or any advice as far as beginners or people who are looking to transition into becoming a trader full time, whether they've been they started out last week and they're thinking about wanting to do this full time, or they've been doing it for 2 years and they're still struggling to make that transition.
Yeah, definitely. My kind of rule of thumb for going full time is that you want to have at least 4 to 6 months of consistency. So making money every single one of those months. And also you want to have at least 6 months or so of income saved up from whatever your salary would be. So if you're making $50,000 a year, I would say have at least 6 months of consistent profits and 25,000 in cash. So that way, you have some runway in case anything happens, because trading can be a little up and down. So you want to make sure you have that safeguard in place. So there's really no need to transition to full time very quickly, which I think a lot of traders do and as a mistake. So I think it's best to wait for at least 6 months of consistent profits.
Okay, nice. And then kind of going into knowing when you're ready to become a full-time day trader. I was reading through some of your tweets earlier, and you talked about the intuition you have in the market and how now you kind of possess this intuition as you've been in the game long enough. And I kind of feel the same way. I'll see something happen and I'll have this gut feeling about, some type of directional move. How long did it take you to get this quote unquote intuition?
Yeah, I mean, I'm still learning every day, and I think even after close to 6 years of doing this, I still don't fully have it. I mean, sure, there's going to be times where I can just look at a stock and say there's a good chance it's probably going to move higher, just the way the price is acting and the volume is acting. But that doesn't necessarily mean I'm going to take a trade off that, right? So I like to be very focused on what my setups are and strict to following my setups. So there are times where I'm kind of there's a good chance price is going to move up just by the way it looks and by how I've looked at stocks for so many years.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to take a trade on it just because I have that intuition. So for me, it's all about sticking to my setups, even though there's times where I'm oh, this is obviously going to, go up, and then it does, but I don't take any profits from it. But that's totally okay. I just like sticking to my setups.
Oh, nice.
Good. You want to talk about some trading stories you might have? Everyone loves
trading
those.
in school is always a good one. You gotta have something trading in school.
Yeah, so I used to trade options on earnings calls a lot. And earnings, as you know, overnight, it'll go crazy moves sometimes. One time on STMP earnings, it was probably 2 years ago, I bought a call and a put. It's $40 total in, and ended up turning it into 1,000 overnight. And if I would have held another day, it would have been 5,000 actually. So it could have been,
Whoa.
a 100x move in a matter of 2 days, which is pretty crazy. But ended up taking profit the next day. Had to lock it in, so ended up with a really solid gain.
Yeah.
That's pretty
Probably
good.
one of the craziest stories I have. Other than one time, also my mentor turned $270 into close to 30 grand overnight as well.
Jeez.
That was the same like kind of earnings play as well, which is crazy. I've never gotten close to that, but one day maybe.
All right, now everyone listening is gonna be like, all right, I gotta go gamble some earnings.
Yeah, right.
Advice as far as someone, actually playing earnings. Is it a good idea or not?
No, I mean earnings are random. There's times where the stock will go up, you get a call, and you still lose money. So I don't play them anymore, but
Yeah.
I've learned my lesson on that.
Yeah, I always
Okay.
say it's a coin toss. I stopped playing them a long time ago.
Okay, so do you think you've made more or lost more trading earnings?
Definitely lost.
There you go.
Over the long run, I mean, if because I keep playing looking for that like $100 into $10,000 hit or whatever.
Yeah.
But it's not gonna happen. So I stopped playing them.
I was doing that for a while too, and
Yeah,
stopped
I
doing
loved
that a
trying to
couple
play
years
earnings.
ago.
Like I would have like I had this notepad in my college dorm about like all the earnings coming up, like Amazon's coming up, Apple's coming up, like all these names, and I would try to play them and I would always lose. Like I somehow always picked like the wrong side.
My last earnings trade was probably, well, now I can't even say last year, the year before last year,
Yeah.
2023.
Jeez. All right, well there you go.
Don't trade earnings. Okay. Any trading books you've read? Are you a book reader?
No, dude. There's a lot of people say like, oh, you should read these books, read these books. I've never been a reader. I hate reading. I've always just rather watch YouTube videos or read, tweets from people online. I found that a lot easier, as well as like podcasts and things like that. So
That's funny.
no,
That's
I haven't really read many trading books, but
okay,
yeah.
so your main kind of vehicle for trading education is Twitter, podcasts, YouTube and mentorships.
Yeah, that's pretty much it.
Good. I mean, I think everyone like you need in order to actually improve as a trader, you need like a good source of input, right? Coming in of whatever way you learn best. Like I enjoy reading books, whether it's audio books or I have like a bunch of books in my office I like to read. So that's good.
When you were learning initially, how did you distinguish like what was fluff out there and what was actually like real information? Like, 'cause
Yeah,
that's
that's a great
hard.
question.
It's really hard for people to do.
Yeah, that is a great question. Over time, it basically just became easy to me because I started just losing a bunch of money. And like once I figured out that, people, stocks don't move based off moving averages or based off like very like simple like kind of patterns that everybody's trading. That's when I kind of realized like, oh, like, I should stick to focusing on how the big banks play and how the institutions move markets, how stocks actually move. Once I kind of figured that out, it became pretty easy to feel what was right and what was wrong.
Yes. So do you think your way is the only way?
No, I talk about this all the time. I say you have to find your style. Some people like trading. There's tons and hundreds of different strategies out there. Some people like doing day trading, scalping, swing trading. There's
Yep.
tons of different strategies out there. And for me, you just got to find what works for you. It took me a while to figure that out, but eventually everyone kind of finds their niche and goes from there.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, finding like your own little niche and how you like to trade seems like a very daunting task. So do you have any recommendations or maybe like tips and tricks for people who are starting out trading or maybe they're new to trading and they want to find out a way? Because when you start out, you look up how to trade on the stock market on YouTube and it's like, there's so like supply and demand, moving averages, stochastics, or it's like there's millions of ways to trade, right? Scalping, swing trading, long-term investing, playing option premiums. How do you find what works best for you? Do you think you literally just have to kind of go out there and just play around with every type of technique trading, or is it what makes you the most money? Like, how do you figure that out?
Yeah, I think the first step is figuring out who you are as a person and kind of knowing yourself, right?
Yeah.
So for me, I know that I can be a pretty patient person, so that allows me to do swing trading. There's some people out there who are not patient at all and they have to scalp and take trades, like get in and out within minutes. So I think once you know yourself, that makes it a lot easier. And the next step is going to be learning as much as you can and just figuring out what you feel most comfortable with, which strategies make the most sense to you. And then that's going to point you in the right direction.
Nice. And then how do you go about like refining that strategy, right? You talk a lot about strategy. You talked a lot about journaling your trades.
Yeah. So trading and, trading a strategy really comes down to being very specific about where you enter, where you exit, where you put your stop, where you put your target, what you're trading, which options you're getting in. There's a lot of different questions that you need to dial in terms of figuring out your strategy. And over time, what you can do is kind of test different strategies and see what works, what doesn't. And when you find that something doesn't really work, you can take out a component and put it in with something new. So for example, like if you're trading a support resistance strategy, right? And let's say one of your confirmations is waiting for an engulfing candlestick pattern. What you can do is say, okay, maybe this isn't working. You can take that out and say, okay, I'm going to wait for, a specific amount of volume to hit at my entry. And then that's when I'm going to get in instead of the candlestick. So it's kind of replacing and kind of like a puzzle, figuring out what works and what doesn't. And after a period of testing, you're going to get to a point where it's profitable, and then you'll start making money from there.
Nice. Okay. So you, for example, today you made money playing a credit spread. Do you want to walk people through what a credit spread is? I remember when I first started trading, I was so like, what's a credit spread? What's a debit spread? There's all these different multi-leg option strategies.
Yeah. So a credit spread is an option strategy where you're buying and selling two different contracts at the same time. So what you're doing is you're actually getting a net credit from the brokerage, which means you're getting money to you and you want to sell it at a cheaper rate. So you want to buy it back at a cheaper rate, and that means you're collecting the difference. So the way that it works is that you're essentially making money off of time decay. And I know a lot of traders nowadays, they'll be buying like 0 days to expire SPX options, and the stock will just not move for like 20 minutes, and then they'll be down 20% on their position. Whereas with buying credit spreads or selling spreads, you're able to take advantage of that time decay, and now you're able to make 20% profit just of the stock not even moving. So it's very advantageous way that you can trade, and it's something that I put in my trading a while back that I love doing now.
Okay, nice. What broker do you use? Just curious.
I use TD Ameritrade. I've been using them for a long time. I love them, and I think they're the best broker out there.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, I just remembered when you showed us the screenshot. Did you start trading on TD Ameritrade?
Yeah. No, sorry. I actually started trading on E-Trade. I had a custodial account with my mom because I was too young to open up my own account.
Nice.
Eventually, once I turned 18, I got an account with TD Ameritrade, started using them, and it's been them ever since.
Okay, cool. Well, I think we're kind of coming to an end here. I wanted to touch on balance a little bit. I feel like balance is so important. It's something I'm working on in my own life. Any like general advice for people trying to find balance with their trading specifically? A lot of people get addicted. They sit on their screens all day. They keep checking their P&L. They can't get away. Mm-hmm. Any advice?
Yeah, trading addiction is definitely a real issue. I know I definitely had it. There were times where I would take so many trades in a day. I was FOMO, chasing setups, all of that. You really got to find balance and find other hobbies that you like doing that take your time away from trading. Once you kind of figure that out and you realize like, oh, I can start going to the gym and, let's say 30 minutes into the market open and there's none of my setups. Instead of sitting there waiting for a setup all day, I can just say, you know what? I'm not going to trade today. My setups aren't there. I have to go work out. I have to go play golf. I have to go work on my businesses. Like there's tons of different things you can do. And that's going to help you stay away from that addiction that a lot of people get when they first start trading.
Nice. Do you ever wake up in the morning, look at the market's about to open, you just look at it, there's nothing there, and then you just leave?
All the time. It's annoying because I wish there's more setups, but like at the end of the day, there's always going to be new opportunities every day, every week. And so for me, I'm very like I'm very like impatient when it comes to waiting for my setup. So if I don't see anything in the first like 30 minutes of the day, I'm out. I close my charts. I don't even look at it. I just go and do my other stuff and I'll wait for the next day.
Okay. So everyone listening, you have to listen to that because that's like the biggest thing is people think like, I'm going to trade, so therefore I have to put on a trade. But I think people don't realize that no position is a position, right?
Yeah, it's so key now that you have to realize that like the less is more, and the less trades you take, usually the better off you're going to be. And a lot of people think it's the other way. But that's just a lesson that most people are going to learn on their own. But if you can hear it now, hopefully you can listen to that and gain some benefits from it.
I like it. That's some great advice. Seriously.
Yeah. Do you have like going further on that? Do you have any like mental games you can play with yourself, or simply like you can only take 2 trades in a day type of rules you could hold yourself to help get away from that FOMO and over trading?
Yeah, personally, I don't have that set in place for me. I used to have that where I would limit myself the amount of trades I would take. That definitely helped. Once I got to the point where my life became a lot more busier, I wasn't addicted to trading anymore, and I got that discipline back. It became very easy for me to kind of, be very disciplined, and I'm only taking like 1 or 2 trades a day nowadays. So for me, it became very easy. I think for other people, they definitely should have that in place. They should say, you got to know yourself, figure out like if I am addicted, like I got to set myself 2 trades a day max, 1 trade a day max, set that in place, write it down, do what you have to do, and eventually it will grow, and then you won't need to have rules for that in place anymore.
I like it. All right, so I think we're about at our time limit here. We're trying to keep these episodes shorter. I think the longer episodes, I don't know, there's always a drop off around an hour, so we're keeping them around 40 minutes. So I hope you guys did enjoy. Again, first podcast episode of 2023. I'm super excited. Thank you, Jordan. Again, seriously.
Yeah. Jordan, what's your Twitter? I want everyone who just watched this to go follow you.
Yeah, so my Twitter is FT and then 2 underscores and then trading. So FT trading, that's what I go by.
Okay, cool. And you want to talk about what you're doing with trading journaling real quick? We were talking about it in the pre-show. I think people would love to hear about it.
Yeah, so I've been working on a trading journal for the past 6 months now. It's essentially a tool that helps you build profitable trading strategies, as well as kind of track your emotions, track your trades, figure out, why you're losing and ways to fix it. So it's called FIMU. It's on my Twitter if you want to check it out. But I've been doing that, working on that for a while, and I'm very excited to finally get that launched. And yeah, that's my trading journal. There's a community involved as well. So I'm very excited to get that up and running.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, I mean, like you talked about having other passions, other projects outside of trading. I know I'm doing other businesses, which maybe someday we'll talk about on the podcast, which would be cool. But for that, it concludes today's episode.
Awesome. Thank you to the Rumford Group for sponsoring this episode. Now, if you guys didn't know, the Rumford Group is a new company that was just founded, which is picking up where Wall Street left off. Now, back in 2017, when the NYSE, the floor went electronic, this knowledge pool of information was lost. The Rumford Group has partnered with some of the most experienced traders in the world and will continue to add traders to their panel to pick up where Wall Street left off in educating anyone who wants to learn how to trade.
Now, if you're interested, use the code podcast in the link in the description to get access today and 10% off. Thank you guys for watching.
Great.
We'll put all Jordan's links down in the description. Go check them out.
Awesome. Thank you guys for watching. All right, we'll see you in the next one.
Later.
Later.
Peace. Bye.